Hello everyone, Fancy here, you're watching FANTAVISION, and I don't entirely understand what's going on. I don't know what Microsoft is thinking here. I don't know why they could be doing this, but I'm sure you've heard the news. Microsoft is laying off 10,000 people. That's the headline everywhere. Microsoft is laying off 10,000 employees. But remember, these aren't just employees of a company. These aren't just people that are suddenly not having a job, and that's not that big of a deal. Losing your job is an incredibly stressful time in your life, and especially when you don't really have any time to prepare for it. And now thousands of people are going to have to go through this. And the reasoning behind it, again, isn't quite clear. Microsoft's annual gross profit was $135 billion, a 17% increase from 2021. So why are they laying off 10,000 people? Why are they doing this? Well, let's take a look at what the CEO has to say. Microsoft's CEO talks about how important it is to make these cuts because they want to save $1 billion. And it's important to save this money despite the fact that they had these drastic year-over-year increases in profit. And, we gotta save all this money. We gotta fire all of these people, despite the fact that Microsoft's CEO last year got a 10% increase in his salary to $55 million. Now, I don't know how one person is worth $55 million to a company. I don't know. I'm not in that side of business. I'm not an executive. I don't have a golden parachute. But apparently, you gotta cut 10,000 people in order to save that $1 billion, despite having profits of $130 billion, which I'm sure most of it wasn't taxed because it's a corporation. They have their loopholes. And the thing is they're cutting people from teams that desperately need it. Bethesda, what have they made lately? Well, better just shuffle off some of those people. They're not important, even though, again, they haven't made anything and Starfield keeps getting delayed. Okay, so you're losing people from that team, which sucks, but Microsoft has other teams. Another important game to Microsoft is Halo, which has been struggling a bit. It needs more content. The game, at its core, in my opinion, is good, but it is just struggling to keep up with other live service games and doesn't live up to that live service tag. Well, they cut people from that as well. Yes, some people from the Halo team. It is being restructured, which means they are laying off people from that team, despite the fact that I feel like they need all hands on deck to keep up with everything else out there. You look at the player count of Halo Infinite compared to a lot of other first-person shooters out there, especially free-to-play ones, and they're doing terrible. So they needed these people, and now they are just gone. Speaking of people they needed, their creative director, Joe Staten, who has been an industry veteran when it comes to Halo since Bungie was making Halo. That's how long he's been working on Halo. He steered the ship to its launch date. It wasn't completely finished when they launched it, but this guy is huge to the team, and now he's no longer on it. Nope, they're moving him to Xbox Publishing proper, which I don't even know what that needs people like him for, but apparently they do, because of all the games that Microsoft has published last year. That's the thing about Microsoft is, what are you doing? Why are you firing people when you desperately need to be creating things? I genuinely don't get this. And it's really annoying that Phil Spencer recently, very tone deaf, talked about how brave developers are when they're releasing these games during a time of this culture of cancellation.
Our creators who bravely and intentionally release their visions to the world, particularly in the current culture of criticism and cancellation.
Which I can't think of any games off the top of my head that are getting canceled. Like, I guess the Harry Potter game, sort of. I mean, it's going to sell well anyway, but besides that, I can't think of anything else. And again, that's Warner Brothers. That's not brave. It's a big-ass company. There's not these indie devs that are worried about getting canceled for putting out their game. It's just not happening. And it's very ironic that Phil Spencer, of all people, would be saying this when Microsoft has canceled how many studios? How many have they shut down? What? They shut down the people that made Crimson Skies. They shut down the people that made Age of freaking Empires and Halo Wars, which were I love Age of Empires. I still play Age of Empires 2. And now they're just gone. They're just dead. Lionhead Studios that made Fable, the original studio that made that, gone. So all of these different studios, they've just bought and killed. Now Rare, you could argue that they bought and killed that as well. Like, what the hell have they made besides Sea of Thieves that was of any note at all? Nothing. It's so sad to see how many studios are bought, or even IPs, if you want to just look at IPs. Look at what they did to Halo, look at what they did to Gears of War, look at what they've done to every single major franchise that was run by a different company, and now they're taking control of it. As a person who is a Halo fan, who is a fan of a lot of Bethesda games, who's a fan of a lot of the studios that they've closed down, and who has talked about how the Series S is a great entry point into the next generation of gaming. I gotta say, that video I made about how I think Microsoft has something up their sleeve that is a lot more dark and sinister than we all think. I mean, this isn't really confirming it, but this is kind of showing like, hey, that was really a gut instinct that I was having about the company. I was having a bad feeling about it, and here we are. We're losing team members from two crucial studios with massive titles, tentpole releases for Microsoft, just cutting people, just getting rid of them. Even though they're still making record profits, they're still paying their CEO $55 million, who already has a net worth of over hundreds of millions of dollars, and will probably wind up shutting down even more studios, delaying more games and putting out next to nothing. And this is starting to make me think that I don't want them to buy Activision Blizzard. If you really start thinking about what they've done with all these different studios they've purchased, at first I was incredibly excited. I was like, man, it's going to be really cool to have all these games on Game Pass. I don't want to buy them. It was a very selfish thought. It was like, this is going to be great. I don't have to buy these games anymore. I already have Game Pass for like years into the future because I buy it on Black Friday for dirt cheap. It's going to be great. It's awesome. I don't have to give them money. I'm just getting the games. Great. But I don't want them to start firing a bunch of people. Now, at the same time, you can look at Activision Blizzard and see that they still fired 800 people when they're making record profit. Corporations are just going to corporation, am I right? It is seriously a sad thing to see whenever this happens, especially with this many people. And it is incredibly frustrating to see all these stupid things that Microsoft is putting out. Their CEO talking about how, for 6 months, we're going to keep giving them medical benefits and we're going to be paying them above normal unemployment. 6 months is nothing. It's 10,000 people. That's a lot of people that are now going to be affected and not have a job at the beginning of the year. And they didn't expect this. They didn't see this coming. You could argue, well, they have 6 months to figure it out. They're going to use up that 6 months a lot faster than they think. It's just a shame that, it's again, Phil Spencer, the tone-deaf thing that he said about cancellation culture and all that when they've been canceling games and they just canceled the dreams of 10,000 people. Talking about how, it's up to developers to bring joy during these tumultuous times and how it's like one giant bad event to another and now you're creating a giant bad event for 10,000 people. I have to reiterate it every single time, and it's sad that I have to repeat myself about this because you think people would have learned by now, but corporations are not your friends. None of them are. You can be a fanboy of Microsoft. You can be a fanboy of Sony. You can be a fanboy of Nintendo, but at the end of the day, they don't give a shit about you. They care about what's inside your wallet, inside your bank account, and they want as much of it as possible. That's why they're here. Record profits? It. Can 10,000 people. Record profits? It. Can 800 people. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't to me. We're seeing them constantly, year over year growth. Consistently. And yet that's not enough for them. And with this could just trigger the end of Halo under Microsoft. Or at least under 343. They seem to have, all these big companies seem to have a record for just canning games that are even middling. If it didn't meet expectations, get rid of it. Just cut it out every single time. And I have a feeling we might see that with 343 pretty soon, which is sad because, again, I think 343 with Halo Infinite finally started hitting their stride a little bit when it came to certain things about the game. They just needed to develop it more before launching it. And they needed a little bit more time before just getting shit canned by Microsoft. We'll see if that happens. I don't know. I'm just glad Forge is in it because people have already created some wonderful things. If it had happened at launch, we would have had even more things. We would have had an even bigger community of dedicated people playing the game. But they didn't. They didn't do that. So poor planning, poor launching. And it's always sad that all of these people that are up in the executive area, the people that are making those decisions to launch the game, the ones that are pushing crunch, the ones that are just not managing people's time and talents correctly, aren't the ones getting fired. It's the people that are the lowest that are normally cut out. There you go. I don't know what Microsoft is thinking with this. I think it's a terrible idea to do this for so many different reasons. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Of course, please do like the video if you guys liked it and subscribe for more content. And as always, have a fantastic day. See you, everybody.